Okay, so select the camera, means like again the same process we are doing. At the end we'll talk about how you export the things to Maya and do what is required with Maya. Okay, I've selected the camera here, come to the browser, import the footage. I think it is in D drive. Track 1, 150 frames. Okay. So once you import the footage, check the frame rate. I'll make it 30 frames. Then playback means we are buffering the footage. So go to the playback, export buffer compression. Okay. Then you can import that. Okay. Now if you play the clip, this is proper. Okay. So again, we are starting with auto track. Then next we'll go with the manual tracking. So I'll go with auto tracking. F4 is a shortcut. We have a few options to change over here. Just scroll down with the options here. Auto track settings. This is the number of track points you are going to select. By default is 3060. You will change it to somewhere 100. There should be just a gap, one space. Then you can go with the other value. Okay. Yeah. Then you can just go with track it. I'll go with track. We'll leave for the tracking. Basically, any of the 3D match move concepts involves with tracking, camera solve, orienting the scene. Orienting the scene includes if you need to change the position of your anchor points or setting to the anchor points, aligning to the grid, scaling your scene to the objects, or rotating the camera angle, all that we'll look into that in Maya. Okay, so once this is done, you can just jump into Cal here, find badly tracked points, click OK. Basically, initially, before you decide what you are going to do, we are asking the software itself, clean out the tracks which are bad. Then you can go with Cal all from scratch. Okay, it's once it is done, you can use this for the result. 0.25. Okay, so that's good enough for us, but like we want to do it more better way, so that is what the weapon for equalizer. So you can just go to the environments, sorry, where is that option, window, parameter adjustment window. This is to modify, if anything, it is software, we are asking the software itself is to check it rather than you manually do it. So two options you have. One is lens distortion, focal length, and then the distortion part. So you can select the lens tab over here. Okay, you have the focal length, change that from fixed to adjust. The reason is fixed means if you have a specific value of it, because value capture in the industry and all, they will have an idea what lens they are using. So we can manually type it if it is not recognized. Otherwise, we can leave it to adjust. So because we are asking the software to do it. Then you can just check the distortion degree, S1, and then come over to this guy. Two options are selected, adjust. You can do one after the other or two together, not a problem. You can see that our actual value was 0.2508. Now after modification, it has come to 0.21. So click on parameters transfer. You can close this. Once you have done it, again come back. This option, this cal of full from scratch. This is solving, camera solving we say. Okay, in the recent applications like PFTrack and all, the terminology which we use are very common language, but here they have different. But the problem is, the process is, we have tracked the camera, we try to remove the unwanted bad tracks, and then we have to solve the camera. That is what we are doing here. Calculation all from the scratch. Any minute you make changes, even if the one point of your tracker, this has to be done. Okay. Otherwise, you see this 0.25 is the initial value what we got. Until unless you do this calculation, it will not update there. Okay. Once this is done, we are ready to go for the next step. Now, like I said in the introduction class also, these track points which are in yellow color, you check with 3D points here and the distance between the point and the green color lines. That is going to help us to understand whether our tracking is good or bad. Okay. Right now it is exactly to the center of that null object, so no tension for us. This is done. So basic tracking point is done. Next, how you align this information to the grid, because the purpose of doing all this is you are trying to match the virtual camera created in Equalizer or any tracking software and use it in 3D applications. You need to match both the camera angles. So for that, you can just come from here, 3D orient scene. Okay, leftmost button, you can pan it and see. Right now it is the 3D virtual camera created. You can observe, because we are talking about something after the camera tracking, after camera solving, we are trying to talk about orientation, orienting the camera angle to the grid. So you will be able to identify the proper alignment in the ortho option. Okay, and you can select the side view so that it gives a clarity to us. Right now all the track points are below the grid. I want to align all the points to the grid and then select one anchor point that will behave as a common control for me. So for doing that, you can see after tracking, after this thing, when you talk about orientation of the scene, you can work with 3D orientation, line controls and manual tracking controls. These are the three blocks where you will be working. Okay. So whenever it comes to the selection of points, either you can select in manual tracking controls or in the 3D orientation controls. You cannot select the points in lineup. Okay. So right now here I can always select the points here, but which point am I selecting? I will not have a clue. Though you are able to select the track points, it is always suggested you jump into manual tracking. Here you know where is the track point and what is the location I'm selecting. So switch on this 3D points. Okay, you can zoom in. First thing what we are doing is you are trying to analyze in which axis you are working. So Xsense, that is the axis we are following. We need at least 3 points to identify the X and Z axis. So we are going to select the points here. Maybe I'll select this guy. To select any track point in Equalizer, you cannot randomly drag. No marquee tool works here. You need to hold Alt. I selected this point. Maybe I'll select this point. See, you need to hold Shift. So I'll go with this guy, Alt, hold Shift. Whenever you are going to select another point, it has to be Shift and then Alt. So 3 points I've selected. after selecting the 3 points, like I said, orientation. That you cannot do in manual tracking. So you need to jump back to 3D orientation controls. You have options here. Edit, align 3 points to the XZ plane. There is some movement here, so if I just check it in side view. Axis is checked. It didn't move to the grid. So for that, next step again, I'll jump over to the manual tracking. Now you can select one point which is going to behave as an origin for us. So I'll take this point. You can click Alt and click outside. So all the track points are deselected. Again, I'm going with selecting this. Go with 3D orientation, edit, point 1 and origin. Okay. Now all the grid, it has come to the grid part. See, when we work in PFTrack, this process will not happen. We need to modify this whole setup in Maya. Okay. Last semester did we discuss that, right? How to orient the scene in Maya. You see, once we take it to Maya, how much problem is solved. Okay. So once this is done, we are orientating the scene, everything is done. Now we add something called test objects. Before exporting this information to Maya or any 3D applications, we need to check, okay, tracking is done, solving is done, aligning is done. But if I place some 3D objects into the scene, does it suppose to us? That we need to check. So that you can do it in lineup controls. So if I just come over here, you see this lines, green and blue, x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so only in the lineup menu you get to see that. Throughout the timeline it shows this. If your tracking is not good, these lines also will be flickering. Okay, they are moving along with the camera. That means we have done the proper one. So next thing is, I want to place the 3D objects. You see the menu here. This is just for preview, and few options are there where you can modify it. But if I want to add something 3D objects and all, again I need to jump into 3D orientation, because you get to see these models, constraints and lot of options here. Okay, so I can go to 3D model, create. I'm using the existing ones here, cone. Okay, now if you see the cone, it's not straight. Okay, and it is randomly staying away from the, it's not selected to any point there. So once you add the 3D objects, we need to align your object to the origins orientation, first point. Then you can snap it to any one particular point. So two things we need to do. So you can just select this guy by holding Alt. Okay, then go to 3D models, align to global space. Right now, if you have used these controls in rigging, you have controls, global controls and local controls, rigging joints. Okay, the movement will be IKFK, two things are there, right? Similar way it is. Every object has its own orientation, but what we are trying to say is whatever object you get in, it has to orient to the main scene, not its own angle. So that is what we are trying here, align to the global space. It changed according to that. Now I need to snap to that any one particular point. So again, to select the point, you can jump to either manual or lineup. So I'll go to the manual here. I want to place to, snap to this origin thing. So I'll select this guy. Then you can come up to orientation. Now I cannot see. Yeah, it is selected. Now the problem is, previously I have already selected the object. So it get confused whether you have selected it now or before. So just Alt click outside, select this guy, hold Shift and select this. Okay, once this, sorry, I'm holding Alt again. This way, you can select that way, and then go to 3D model, snap to the point, Control Alt S. Now that object is moved to that particular point which you have selected. Okay, then you come over again to lineup controls and see if any errors are there. We get to know that our object is not properly sitting in that particular point, as well as it is not aligned. So the tracking, till now everything might have come out good for us, but if the object is not matching with the camera movement, everything is vain. Okay, but the object what we have imported, it is bigger in size, so I can select this guy. You need to be in either manual tracking or 3D orientation to select it. Okay, select this guy. You have scale properties and all this. Make sure you switch off the local and add global. All modifications what you do, because if you are trying to do something in equalizer and you are taking output, no problem. But whatever modifications or editing you are doing, it is going to be used in another application. It could be Nuke, or it could be Blender, or it could be Maya. Anywhere global controls can be general. When it comes to local, it has its own control. So always change that to global. Then you can click on this guy, scaling. You have the scale tool. You can just uniformly scale, or whichever way we want, we can just scale it. See it in the line controls. Yeah. This is come. Till here, last 3 classes or 2 classes we are doing. Okay. So from here, what we do again goes to Maya. Once this is done, you can come over here, 3D AE. You have something called export project. You have the different options you have. The first one is 3ds Max, After Effects, Blender, Cinema 4D, FBX, Houdini, Lightwave, Maya, Nuke, Softimage. You can export this information to all these applications. Okay. Because we want to deal with something called multipasses and all that, we generally go with Maya. If we are not dealing with any of the passes thing and all, and you want to just compose it, I can straight away take a Nuke file, because in Nuke you can work on 3D models and all that. Okay. So I'll go with Maya. Now here the things which you need to keep in mind is the frame. First, when you import the footage, we need to check the frame rate. And while you are exporting, what is the starting frame rate? What is the starting frame? If these two things mismatch, when you take it to 3D application, whatever you place, it is not going to play properly. Okay, there will be a mismatch in the actual object movement and the camera movement. Okay, so my footage I intentionally rendered with frame number 1. This is the tricky part. Maybe in industry, when you work for some project, you might not have a choice. But when I record something and when I render, to reduce my confusion, I can delete that 0th frame, right? You hardly have some movement from 0 to first frame. So that's what I did here. When I rendered it in After Effects, by default it comes from 0th frame. So I deleted that. So I have frame from first frame. For me, half of the tension gone there. Otherwise, while I import the footage, I need to check what is the starting frame. And when I am exporting, I need to mention here, because by default it takes frame number 1. You need to change that to 0th frame. Okay. So then I can go with export file. We can change here this itself. We can give the file name. Track Maya. And then if you observe here, it is showing .mel. What is mel? It is language related to Maya. Abbreviation I'm not sure about. Maya, some language, which is understood by MEL language, we say. Okay. We know something called MEA, MB, Maya ASCII, and what is the other one? Binary. Maya binary and Maya ASCII. Okay. But here it is taking .mel. I'll tell you the major advantage of it, because if when we are using PFTrack, it either exports as FBX or MEA, whichever we want, it can be exported. Now when you take it to Maya, So first I'll save this. Okay, so it is taking all the cameras. We can leave it. This we hardly select them. Click OK. Project successfully exported. Click OK. Minimize this guy. The part of equalizer is done there. Password क्या है? Anyone remember password? मेरा नहीं यार, तुम लोगों का. I have to update. Product didn't open. होगा क्या? हो रहा है. Okay, so I'll go with open. No, I'll go with new. We'll see that. Windows. Okay. I'll go with file, import. It's in downloads, right? Track to. Yeah, here, my file, click import. We got the file. Please check that it is in perspective. So when you are in perspective camera angle, not a problem at all. We can rotate it, but don't make any changes in your camera angle. Okay, scrolling things and all not suggested. Here see the frame rate is 74, you change it to 30. I think buffer is on. Switch off. Twenty-four है. Export 24 से किया क्या हमने? ठीक है, वही लग जाता है, यही प्रॉब्लम है. स्टार्टिंग में वो जर किया है. Okay, let's see. Okay, so first step, we are ready. Now, if you remember the previous things, we used to group. After importing the files into Maya, we used to group the track points separately and then regroup with the camera thing and all. That is done by it, and we used to link the footage. Selecting the camera, going to the environment and linking it. So that process is already done by the MEL setup. So that is some time savage. Next thing what it is, when I place some object, so if I just go with a plane, okay, it's very small. Now right now whatever I place it is easy for me because there is no character here. Suppose if there is any object or if there is any character, you can measure the scale, right? Okay, so that particular time any modifications we do, you need to select the scene. Suppose if I'm just trying to, that is very small for me. The mesh what I have taken, it is looking very small. Suppose I want to make my camera little zoom in. You can, the scene selection, not individual track points or not the camera. You need to select the whole thing. Suppose if I make it 5, it's more smaller. or 0.5. I'll go with panel perspective. Select this guy. It's you can far away. So let me just make it to 2 and see what it is happening. It is increasing, but I need to decrease 0.2 or 0.3. Where is this guy? Okay, done. The moment you change it, scaling you changed, but the orientation alignment we haven't changed it. Okay, when it was default 1, when we bought it, this is what the advantage of MEL. You have oriented, you have modified it in the equalizer, almost correctly set it. But if I want to change based on some other information, we can do it. For this example, you don't need it. If you are, any of your footages have any human characters or any objects in that, whatever you guys recorded, or you are using the same footage. For this footage, we don't need to scale or orient again. Okay. Suppose if there is a person standing here and you import some other 3D character, then you will find the difference. The 3D character, if it is looking huge, that means I need to scale down my work area, the scene, to fit to this character. So that we'll see some other footage, but here we don't need to modify this. Yeah. So if I press W, origin is here. See, I mean, it's like my origin is there. We need to change the origin to this particular point, which we have aligned in equalizer. So make sure you select the scene over there, jump to perspective. And one more thing is, it is not mandatory that you fix to the same point what you have used in equalizer. We have that freedom to change. If you want to change it to a different anchor point, we can change it. Okay. So right now the anchor point is here. Hold DV and snap to this. Okay, this is one. And previous semester we used to snap to the object there. That is not that necessary over here. If I change this to, okay, now if I place something, where is this plane? I'll scale this guy. Properly moving. So if I just switch off the grid, you can select the track points. Properly aligned. Okay. Then you can download some image, means any animated characters. You have anyone? Anything you have? Shishir, you have in your system? Download kiya hoga na? Okay, let me try something. This guy is also giving 3D models. Pixels guy is also giving 3D models. Sketchfab. Now वो open कर सकता था, but again it will ask for password. I don't remember. थ्री डी मॉडल्स क्या क्या करेंगे? फ्री तो है. animated नहीं है, which is suitable for this low poly people. Okay. ना animated है क्या ये? नहीं. Hmm. लॉग इन करना है यहाँ पे. और कौन सा है विदाउट लॉग इन? वो भी जो है ना. Now you select such footages where because we are not dealing with modifying individual texture, right? हो रहा है, हो गया. ये थोड़ा प्रैक्टिस किया हुआ है, ये सेव एज करेंगे तभी होएगा. Okay. So, file, import. As of now, there is no scale issue because if there is any car beside, then accordingly we can plan. Just check if it is properly aligned to the grid. Yeah, see. Previous semester, it never worked this way. We have to manually align and do it. That is one advantage we have. Somehow I'm getting to like equalizer. और यहाँ पे साइड पे मेरा कार दिखेगा तो पता चलेगा. ये है ना, इसलिए सोच. Can be bigger, I think, right? No, ये टाइप का कार तो down to near to the ground only, right? Down to earth मतलब वो वाला नहीं. Turn this guy. Okay. So go to the render settings. मनु सर ने एक्टिवेट ही नहीं किया. विंडोज प्लगइन मैनेजर. अर्नोल्ड दिखा नहीं. इंस्टॉल नहीं हुआ. ना मैं ये देख रहा था 2024 they might have shifted to some other menu kind of thing. No, you haven't installed. Lighting specialist. Did this open, Arnold? Yeah, he didn't install this one, this fellow. AU, Autodesk. AUTO. Who has installed Maya? Okay, let me see. Maya hardware. Hmm. Visible car. So this basically understood, right, till Maya. This is the other part which we are discussing. I'm talking to, actually I spoke to Karthi sir. He said he will update me once he's free. So from here till we go to Nuke, there's one more part here, rendering the passes. What we discussed last semester was something basic. It's like randomly play something and do it. But as a specialization batch, I wanted you guys to go it with proper knowledge. So he told me that he will update me. After 3 months or something, he has gone to his office. So he will admit, I'll remind him one more time. We are planning for an online session. So once he take 1 or 2 sessions, depends on what style he's taking. After that, we'll jump to Nuke part. Okay, till here it is clear. Okay, uh, next, again going back to equalizer, we have done the whole process in automatic tracking. Okay, but equalizer is known for its 2D tracking, or we call it as manual tracking. The process is same, except the starting one where you click auto, you will do manually. That we need to know. Or there is something called good bad process and all that. That if you know, after that, solving the camera, orienting the camera, and then exporting, all this thing is common. Okay, so let's try that. Shall I go ahead or you are practicing something? Shall I explain? With this, the basic process is done. Then we'll look into something, next coming classes, we'll look into something called object tracking, and then what is a lens distortion. When you have certain footages which has some distortion in the camera angle, how you undistort it and place the tracking. The process is same. Initial part will change. Okay. Now what we have done is camera tracking. But in object tracking itself, you have two options. One, a stable camera, object is moving. You will track that person and add something to him, or there's a camera movement as well as object movement. So while we have these two kind of footages, how to do is what we can look into the equalizer part. Okay, I'll do one thing. It's already saved it. Okay. 30. Then go with playback. Overwrite it. I'm just overwriting the previous one. export. So here, this is the basic one, manual tracking. The first thing again, the frame rate, all these things we need to make sure everything is proper. Lens I can distort. We are not going to change something here. When we go for auto tracking, we'll change the number of active points per frame. Okay. When you go for manual tracking, you are the decision maker. You are going to select the track points where you want to create. Now, there is no particular rule that these many track points should be there, or this is the location where you need to take the track point. But if you realize the way you have done using 1-point tracking and 4-point tracking and planar tracking, if you remember these exercises, what you have done, you will select that particular location. When you go for 1-point tracking, you select certain location and you will ask it to software. Ask the software to track it. But here we are asking the software to track based on our inputs and create a virtual camera. For a virtual camera to create, it is not possible by just 1 or 2 track points. Roughly they say minimum of 6 to 7. Last class also I told you minimum of 6 to 7 track points per 1 frame. That means if I have 150 frames, how many? 150 into 6. But is it possible to take so many track points? No. That is one perspective. Now when you say 650, suppose 10 frames, 10 track points, if I consider 150 into 10, 1500. 1500 for 1 frame means, yeah, 1500 track points. 1500 track points, okay, I'm ready to take it. How? Where? That question arises. You can't take track points of all 1500 in that front line, right? Because 3D tracking is meant for placing a 3D object into your scene, which is going to measure your perspective angle and also match the camera movement. That means whenever the topic of perspective comes in, you need to know all the axes, X, Y, Z axis, where the objects are, how the object is looking for. That means foreground, background, perspective angle, all these points comes to the scene. So you cannot limit yourself to take some points over here, here and all. I need to take some points from here, far away, close up, mid shot, all the angles we need to take. That is the purpose of telling you minimum of 6 track points is required. You can't just take 1 point in the front, 1 point in the back and 1 point there, multiple angles. Now all the part of deciding I want so many number of track points is fine, but how you decide it, how it has to be there. I think you have something related to okay, for now this is fine. So whenever you want to take create a manual means individual your own track points. Suppose see I'm just trying to select this region. Small patches are there. The small patch. Okay. I want to select that particular track point. To create a track point in equalizer, hold Control and then click. Okay, that is where you create it. I can hold Control and click it. From this step is what we get to learn when you are using manual tracking, what we actually do. This box I was telling from the first semester, okay, how you reach, means how you get a parcel to your home with the address, the door number, your mobile number and all that. Here also the same thing, the region, the pixel or the point you have selected, based on that it is going to track. Okay. But if you just come from this footage to the right hand side, automatically it got detected the tab point, okay, and it is showing something 0.1, that is the name of that particular tracker. So from this is 1 and you can see it over here in the left hand side. We are till now we were working only on the camera. where we started importing footages. After that, we didn't come over here at all. Okay, but now we are working on our own track points. You can see this something called point group, the second tab over here. Inside that, if you see, these are the things. You have something called points. As of now, if I open, there's one active track point created. Okay, so you can select this guy. This is the same thing. Okay, so coming to the right hand side, the first thing is the identifier thing. And if you see this, these are the different colors you have. By default, it is red. You can select any of your own color. Okay, your favorite color, you can select it. 3D track point color, 3D point color, it is showing green. That means initially it is red. Once it is tracked, it turns green. If it is not a good track point, it remains red or something orange in between color. Okay, so that we can do. Now the next one is, we call it as 2D tracking in equalizer. So that's what it is showing here. Tracking mode. What is the mode of tracking? This is what we need to, there's like one advanced option you can say when it comes to equalizer. By default, it is showing something called pattern. If I click this guy, you have three options. One is pattern, the other one is marker, and third one is edge or corner. So if you are trying to track some indoor, this is exterior thing. You are trying to track something indoor, it is always good to go with edges of that room, right? So when you have specific regions, I can specifically go with that. I want only to track on the edges so that if I create a plane, it matches with the edges of the room. So specific reason I have, but or not always. Then you have marker. I was looking at some footages in the machine. This footage I have. Okay, it's a different story that only the track points are only on the wall side, not on the ground. But here I can blindly go and select the tracker. Track marker is there. I don't need to go and sit and select the pixel or search for the pixels. Blindly I can go with the track points. So that option is there. No other tracking application gives us that option. Okay, and then you have the pattern. This is a regular one because you were thinking that we are selecting one point. In fact, we are not placing on one point. It is going to take an average of the pixels there. Okay, right now this particular frame, this is the starting frame. It shows it is going to select the region of the whatever the point you want to select. The pattern is being selected from this particular box, and you can see the controls you have: moving tool and rotate tool. Previous any of the tools we didn't get this option of rotating your tracker location. If the camera is stretching, that will also move along with that. Okay, that options are there. Then you can work on this individual ways. Means I'm trying to limit that region to only that part, and this is the search region, so I can reduce accordingly. This is the first track we have selected, and then coming down here, this is the headache part for us. If you miss out this one, half of our work what you have done is gone. By default, it shows the direction of tracking is forward only. If you are in the first frame and I apply it, it clicks on track, it does the work for us, not a problem. But if I just click this guy, you have backward only, and you have forward and backward, both the things are there. So you need to know which option you are selecting. That is one drawback with this equalizer. Actually, it is a good point, but for us getting habituated from the previous applications, we just click. Oh, it might have done. We assume that it is done. No, it does in only one particular direction. If I want to be happening back, I need to change a lot. Okay. So first now I'll go with track forward only. I'm in the first frame. What else is required for me down this? We hardly change any of these things. survey type means where it has to select things and all, it is survey free. It randomly takes a selection point and all. Position, weight, blending, we hardly change any of these properties. And coming to this particular button here, you have track, right square, left square, I mean it's like greater than symbol and less than symbol. Then you have something called fast there. Okay. These two buttons are track forward or backward 1 frame at a time. Okay. And if I click on this center, it starts tracking. It tracked. You can see this guy it at 150th frame. Done. It has gone to -1. Here. Is it not there in the footage? That point? No, it's there, right? Yeah, it is done. One track point is done for us. Whether it has stick to that region, you see, starting, slightly movement is there. That we can sort out in the camera solve. Or we can manually move it and do it. That will come in a while. Suppose if I see, initially I placed my track point to the center, but it was not following actually at the center. Maybe somewhere here or just move it. Yeah, now if I see, it has moved away from center to this corner, which I don't want that to happen that way. So what I can do is, if it is in After Effects, you select all the keyframes from the bottom and delete them. Okay. So here is the process is same, but we need to do in a systematic way. Once you decide that this is the frame where you have a good track, you come here, you see these options, endpoint. So if I click this, you see this, it deletes the keyframes what it is created. Okay. From then again I can go with 1 frame at a time. Okay, track forward. After you create end frame, I created end frame, right? It is not taking that point. This is what the headache part I was talking about from this and this. Though it is showing forward tracking, it doesn't go by itself. Instead, you need to say align to the key, point defaults. You can adjust it once again there and then track. See, it is considering that as the endpoint. So you need to come back and say this one. Yeah. Is frame, point defaults, edit track. Do we have a last keyframe here? I'll just remove the key, then come over here. From here I want to pattern only. Yeah. Control click, adjust the settings. And then track forward. The moment you decide that is going to be the end point of my thing, the tracker is done. It is not going to accept anything. Again, you need to recreate and work on it. Where is this issue? Actually, this option is not necessary to be used every time. Suppose, let me come back to the first frame. I'll take some point over here. Yeah. See, this is the point I'm taking. So go with control click. Okay. And if I go for tracking, it stopped there because it cannot read again. The information is gone. So here I can come back to edit point, means end the point. That is done. The lifespan of that track point is only to that particular frame. From then, once I go to the next frame, maybe I want to continue that if it is visible, or I can go with another frames. So for the second track point I have taken only 78 frames is its lifespan. Okay, that way you can do it. So now we can go with like this, control click this guy, track forward. Now the problem is you are not able to justify yourself whether the tracking is happening properly or not. It is because the camera moving. So what you can do is you can just block that camera movement. Let me take another point here. So I'll go with this guy, control click. Okay, this I have selected. This time I want to see whether the tracking is happening every frame, in each and every frame. So before that, if I switch off this fast, I click down slow. Now if I go with the track, it's going slowly. It's not very fast. Okay. But still, because of the camera movement, you can see that variation in the track box, it gets changed. Let's go with another point here. Somewhere here I'll go with control click. Okay. Now this one I want to see in front of me. I don't want the camera movement to distract me. You can change it to center 2D. Click on center 2D before you click on tracker and then click track. The point which is getting tracked is stable for you. It is centered to your composition. It is not our actual footage, right? It is zoom kind of thing. Okay. After you finish the whole process, you can click on full frame. It goes back to the scene. Okay. Then I might go with another point here. Control click this way. Till you need to switch off this. Till then, it will automatically jump to that. So I'll go to the center and then click track. We can easily identify that track part is there or not. Okay. So how many 7 track points I have taken? At least some 30, 25 to 30 track points if we have. And that too from different locations. See, right now I have taken 1, 2 points over here, center 1 point, and the corner these 2 track points. Then I might zoom to somewhere here and then select something. Control click. Okay. Then track forward. When it is turning red, see, while it is tracking, you can identify whether the tracker is good or bad. You could have seen this. Let me just come back to this and click on endpoint. Okay. I'll delete this guy. Don't want this. You can just click on delete. So I'm taking the same point, control click. Okay. Observe the graph over here because center is on, it is not jumping. So click. See that waveform? Till that particular frame it was green. From there it started turning red, means the point is not suitable for us. There is some red distortion is there. Okay. So that can be sorted out in the camera solving. See, mostly it is green. Now, if you observe here, I am at the last frame. Okay. And you see this, it automatically detects when you are at the first frame and last frame. Okay. Then go with track. This way. So how many? 11. Let's go with few more. that is gone there. So you can come back to one frame where it is means like properly tracked, and then click on endpoint. Okay. Yeah. I'll come to first frame and then okay. So till somewhere 47 somewhere it should be fine. Yeah. Endpoint. Let me try with something like this. I'll delete this guy. Okay. I'll take something, 2 more points I'll go with. Last one. Once you finish the tracking point, then I'll go with full frame here. See, got distracted. Yeah. Full frame. So we are taking 20 track points. Then first thing is go with this. Find badly tracked track points. Okay. Then from scratch, see this 11.1038. It was supposed to be less than 1. We have 11.1038. That means it is not appropriate for our tracking. Okay. So then we'll go with window, adjustment, select the lens. We'll see automatically how much we can modify. Where is this lens distortion, focal length, adjust. I don't think it will reduce so much. See 10.8978. Okay. So if I just come to orientation, let's see, place some objects and see. Okay, fine. Go to manual. I'll select alt, this guy. All are red actually. All track points are red. Okay. Then go with orientation, edit, points. Yeah, this is fine. Then again, I'll select this guy for origin. Yeah. Okay. So we'll try to place something. This is my anchor point, so select it. See, jumping, jump. If you could do it, the first part is when you see this 3D points itself, you see where is your red color point and where is your marker. You don't need to come till this level also. See this variation. Red point, track point is here and this is here. That means the number of track points what you have selected is not enough for us. And the variation of locations you need to change. I have taken only 20. Again another 20 try. If you get it, fine. If not, again. That's the reason say they want to get the output using 2D tracking, not auto tracking in this particular application. If they are able to successfully get the output and that solving the camera error promise are below 1, that's a perfect for us. Because it is getting more information, right? This has to decrease. We decreased from 11 to 10. It has to be below 1. More number of track points to be taken. Okay. Possibly one you take means like if you have some not overlapping the pixels of track points. Suppose if I take one track point here, minimum 10 pixels variation should be there. It shouldn't be one here and one here. Overlapping of track points also shouldn't happen. That we need to take care. Okay. Yeah. And there is some option, right here. Display camera things. Color correction options are there somewhere. It's not visible, the option. Here image control, this thing. This haven't worked there, but this is the location before tracking, because I'm selecting that white color patches, right? If you get more detailed thing, we can do color correction and then work on it. That also we can do. Well, next example, I'll do that. Okay. So two different ways, manual way of tracking. Initially, you can start with auto track. Once you get the interface thing, then you can explore with the thing. Meanwhile, I'll check example with the color correction and I'll try to find some footages for lens distortion and what is the other one? There's other object tracking.